The Cotswolds, a unique area of southwest England full of gorgeous countryside with the most spectacular views.
Oh, look at this.
But I would say that I live here.
This is the life.
I'm poet Pam Ayres,
It's so nice to be back.
and in this new series I'm discovering more delights in my lush part of the world.
Just look at this.
Oh, gosh. It's fit for a prince, I would say.
You're a genius.
I can't deny it.
But this time I'm heading further afield too, to discover amazing places.
Look, it's awesome, isn't it? Absolutely spectacular. Look at the colours.
And fascinating stories just beyond the Cotswolds borders.
This is what he actually looked like. Gosh.
The only reason it's here is because your ancestors looked after it for 3,000 years.
So join me as I make new friends
Well, welcome to Longleat House.
who are passionate about the places they call home.
Come in, darling.
It's
You know
very
you'll-
inviting.
Yeah, you'll like it.
À votre santé.
I don't know what that means.
You might just recognise a few of them.
This is the place I first heard the Beatles.
Cheers. Cheers, Malvern.
Today I'm exploring some of Oxford's finest treasures.
Gosh.
I enjoy the amazing beauty of one of Britain's greatest gardens.
What a wonderful mixture of textures and different shades of green. It's quite breathtaking.
And I discover what it's like to live in an ancient home on what's thought to be Europe's oldest street.
They have all the mod cons. We have inside toilets and bathrooms.
Now, the Cotswolds is a place you've probably already heard of. But just in case you're scratching your head wondering exactly where to find it, let me show you. First, head to southwest England, where nestling between Bath, Cheltenham and Oxford is an area of gorgeous rolling countryside stretching across 6 counties. And my trip today starts in the idyllic city of Oxford, which holds a special place in my heart. I grew up near the city, and it's where I got the first big chance of my career. Today I'm going on the river and taking a punt on something I haven't done for a very long time.
Looks like fun. I might have a go.
These oddly shaped boats are called punts, and today I'm going to be hopping into one of them for a trip along the River Cherwell.
Nick, thank you very much. I feel as though I'm in safe hands.
You're
which
in
is,
very safe
Which
hands.
is nice, because you've got lots of experience.
My punt chauffeur, Nick, has been helping out on this river for more than 45 years.
Nick, punting is very much a part of Oxford, isn't it?
It's an absolutely massive part. I mean, originally, punts were working boats on the River Thames. So
Were
they've
they?
transitioned, they were cargo boats, much bigger, without seating. And they transitioned from working boats to pleasure boats around about 150 years ago.
Punting is very much associated with students, isn't it?
It is. You can always tell the students who are the freshers because they have no idea how to punt. So all over the place, like most of the customers, sort of 95% of the customers are complete novices. And on a busy day, that's a recipe for chaos.
Nick, you look very deft. What is the technique?
The technique is actually quite basic. Steering is very important, so you don't keep hitting into the bank and into other people. All you do is you trail the pole directly behind the back of the boat. If you wish to turn the boat to the right, you literally use it in the same manner as a rudder and bring it round to the right, and there you turn.
See, you make it look very easy. Well, I'm just going to let you propel me gently along the river. It's so beautiful with the weeping willows and the mallards and all the lovely trees of the botanical garden. I'm just going to enjoy it, Nick.
Please do.
I have to say, this is the life. I wouldn't mind doing quite a lot of this.
I could drift along this wonderful waterway all day, but I better not. I've got plenty more to see in this fantastic city. I've a real soft spot for Oxford because back in 1975, this is where I first went on the radio to read one of my poems. And you know what? Oxford's home to a world-famous university, and I was a student here in the city too.
I studied English in Oxford, but not in august surroundings like these, unfortunately. When I was 15, I went to the Oxford College of Further Education, which was basically a bunch of shacks up the Cowley Road, and I did some O-levels. And I got a prize for the best civil service student from the Lord Mayor of Oxford. You know, so it's not just anybody standing here. I'm a woman with qualifications.
Today you can't move around Oxford without bumping into university students, and it's no wonder when there are 39 colleges here. One of the largest and most prestigious is Christ Church, where I'm meeting my guide, Patty Stansfield, for a proper investigation.
When was the college founded?
So the college was founded originally by Cardinal Wolsey in 1525, and at that stage the college was known as Cardinal College.
Right. It's such a beautiful quad. It takes my breath away, really.
Well, and the wow factor is the size. It's the biggest quad in Oxford, 261 feet by 264.
To give you an idea of just how big that is, it's just a smidge smaller than the hallowed turf at Wembley Stadium.
This must be the famous Tom Tower.
It is indeed, yes, the Big Ben of Oxford, you might say. It rings 101 times.
Oh, it rings 101 times?
Yeah.
How long does that take?
I'm not really sure. I mean, it always seems to go on forever, and I don't know who's counting.
Christ Church really exudes history and tradition, giving it an almost magical feeling. It's no surprise then that wizards have called this place home too.
Well, today it's very much recognised as being connected with the filming of the first two Harry Potter films. Warner Brothers were certainly in the college filming, and they filmed on the stairs that lead up to the magnificent hall, but the company built their own version of the hall in a studio, partly because we don't have enough rows of tables for the houses in the story, but also we have health and safety policies and would not have owls flying down the middle of the room where you serve food.
It's got its hazards, hasn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Tell me about some of the famous people who've studied here.
Well, over the 500 years, there have been many, many of them, mainly men. Oxford University overall has produced 27 prime ministers, and 13 of those, be it unlucky or not, have come from Christ Church.
And who else, Patty?
Well, we've got another famous poet, Lewis Carroll.
Oh, Lewis Carroll, he wrote Jabberwocky. That was the first poem I ever learned. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, with jaws that bite and claws that snatch. Beware the Jub bird and shun the frumerous bandersnatch. I mean, the imagery was great. You don't know what it means, but the imagery was wonderful. Oh, Patty, I can't tell you how lovely it is to have been able to explore Christ Church. I mean, I'm from the secondary modern school myself, so this is fascinating to me and so beautiful, and thank you for telling me all about it.
Thank you.
Coming up, I have a rare glimpse of a children's classic in one of the most famous libraries in the world.
It's such a delight to see this, the beginning of one of my favourite stories of all time.
And I enjoy the surprising delights of one of Britain's most spectacular gardens.
Oh, look at this.
Look at the view.
Oh, wow, look. Oh, it's just a tapestry, isn't it?
I'm busy exploring one of my favourite cities, Oxford, where I was first invited to read my poems on the radio. Words are my business, and I've always loved libraries, and they don't come any more impressive than the city's magnificent Bodleian.
Oh, look.
Founded in 1602, it's one of the oldest libraries in Europe, and with 13 million printed works, it's an absolute treasure trove.
To my shame, I've never been here before, although I live, just down the road. But it's so beautiful with all this old wood, and around the walls there are these benefactors. It's just lovely. It's got the most beautiful atmosphere and a feeling that you should talk in very hushed tones.
My expert guide for today is Richard Ovenden, who's the latest in our long line of the library's custodians.
Hello, Richard. I'm really pleased to be here. I can't tell you how lovely it is. Now, you are Bodlei's librarian.
I am. I'm the 25th since 1600.
When I walk around the Bodleian, which I haven't done before today, I do feel the trailing threads of greatness all around me because all manner of august persons have studied here and used the library, haven't they?
They have. The wonderful writers J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis used the library, practically every day that they were in Oxford. And more recently, there have been scholars, including the vaccine team, who developed the Oxford vaccine, have used the Bodleian's scholarly journals in medical sciences to help them do their absolutely
vital. And the fight
vital.
against COVID.
Absolutely.
How amazing.
The Bodleian's archives are vast, but Richard has something very special to show me. And it's connected to one of my favourite books, The Wind in the Willows.
We're going to start with this book, which is actually a collection of letters, and those letters were written by Kenneth Grahame to his son, whose nickname was Mouse.
I've always been charmed by the swaggering but vulnerable Mr. Toad and Ratty, Badger and Mole. So it's fascinating to delve into the way this children's classic really began.
Here's the genesis of the story that became The Wind in the Willows.
Yeah.
You can see how the story evolved.
Absolutely.
Every couple of days they would give
he wrote
Kenneth
a little
the
bit
time
more.
to kind of dream up some more,
Yeah.
which then later get turned into the book that was eventually published and became, an international bestseller.
There are lovely little human elements here where he's thought better of it and thought, I can improve on that, so I'll add it in. I want to read it, it draws you in, doesn't it?
These original letters are the only ones in the world. To read these private, affectionate words written so long ago by someone I really admire is very special.
The water rat was restless, and he did not exactly know why. To all appearances, the summer's pomp was still at fullest height, and although in the tilled acres green had given way to gold, although rowans were reddening, and the woods were dashed here and there with a tawny fierceness, yet light and warmth and colour were still present in undiminished measure, clean of any chilly premonitions of the passing year. It's such a delight to see this, the beginning of one of my favourite stories of all time, and to have it all explained how it came about. So thank you very much, Richard. It's been a joy.
It's been a pleasure sharing it with you, Pam.
It's been a real treat to discover the origin of one of my very favourite stories. But it's time to leave Oxford and head out into the countryside. My next trip takes me deep into the heart of the North Cotswolds. Just outside the medieval market town of Chipping Campden lies the tiny village of Hidcote Bartrim. Set in the middle of beautiful rolling countryside, I'm here to explore a place which is famed for being one of Britain's greatest gardens, Hidcote.
This isn't the first time I've been to these gardens, but I do love them especially, including this wonderful classic cottage garden, complete with thatched cottage. I think it's brilliant.
Today, Hidcott's gardens are spread across 10 acres, and it's known as one of the most influential and important arts and crafts gardens in the whole country.
Hello. Hello. I'm so pleased to meet you. I'm delighted to be here.
To help me understand why, head gardener Lottie Allen is showing me around.
Thank you. What a lovely pool. It's like gin. Oh, look at this.
Look at the view.
Oh, wow. Look. Oh, it's just a tapestry, isn't it?
Hidcott's gardens are so special because there are actually 28 of them. They all form differing outdoor rooms linked by cultivated corridors.
What a wonderful mixture of textures and different shades of green, Lottie.
Yeah.
It's quite breathtaking.
Yeah, and I find it amazing when you look down the central axis. And then it's a series of rooms, and each room has got a very different feel about it.
Yeah.
You go from one to another and reflect on what you've seen, and then small areas are quite busy, generally a small palette of plants.
And then there are sort of lovely surprises, like what I would call moon daisies. They call them oxeye daisies these days, don't they?
They shouldn't really be there, so don't point them out. But
Oh, well, I like them. I think they're very
lovely.
sweet. So where shall we go next?
Well, let's head to the long borders. That sounds like a good.
That sounds good.
Aside from its outdoor rooms, Hidcott is famous for the marvellous variety of flowers throughout the gardens. And everywhere you look, there are intricate details and spectacular colours.
Look at this. Look at this beautiful iris. I mean, this takes my breath away because the combination of colour, this pale lilac and this little yellow beard here and then this rich purple. You see, I think that's breathtakingly beautiful.
These most English of gardens were in fact designed by an American with no gardening experience whatsoever. It took trainee architect Lawrence Johnson 40 years to complete this space, and all he had to help him was an old textbook.
See, the thing that fascinates me about this garden is that Lawrence Johnson was not a scholarly gardener. All he had as a guide was this book by the Victorian gardener Thomas H. Mawson, and it's called The Art and Craft of Garden Making. And on the strength of this book, he created this wonderful garden with its rooms that you have and which draws visitors in their thousands to this day.
From one book came themed rooms like the White Garden and Fuchsia Garden, but they're all linked by herbaceous borders, vibrant with flowers and foliage.
This is a stunning rose.
So this one is Rosa, and then La Ville de Brosseau. That's my best French I can do.
Well, it's very impressive, and much more so than if I tackled it with my Vale of the White Horse accent. It's such a lovely shape, isn't it? Can I stick my nose in it and have a sniff?
Go on, I dare you.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous. I love pink roses. I once had a rose named after me, you know. It was a bit insipid, really. It was yellow with a sort of red lip. I didn't particularly like it. I like the fact that they named a rose after me, but after you sink back into obscurity, they name it after somebody else, you get deleted. Anyway, it was launched at the Chelsea Flower Show, and I had to write a verse about it, of course, and I wrote, "Come gardeners all, hobby full-time, though your soil be clay or lime, stop fantasising in your sheds, you can have Ayres in your beds." It was a gem.
Like many gardens in recent times, Hidcote represents an oasis of calm for many people. I love its history and its creation by a so-called amateur garden designer. But what I like most of all is that more than a century on, it's still here for everyone to enjoy.
It's good for the soul, isn't it, Lottie?
Yeah, I think so. And the garden was established very much on those principles. Lawrence Johnson came back from the First World War, having been injured, and used that time to really design the garden and continue to design the garden. Actually, to come back and actually have that connection with nature and the green spaces that he was designing must have been a really important part. And that's proved itself through the pandemic. You know, we opened 2.5 months after we'd closed down, and people were just grateful to be in an open space and enjoy that sort of connection with nature and everything the garden has to offer.
Well, thank you very much, Lottie. I so looked forward to coming here today, and it's been everything I hoped for, because there's such variety here. Everywhere you look, there's something different to admire and to smell. So it's been great, and I feel greatly uplifted, like a good bra, really.
Thank you, Pam.
Coming up, I'm made giddy by Cheddar's glorious gorge.
I have to say this has surpassed my expectations by a mile.
And a favourite game takes me right back to my childhood.
I never expected to see a snakes and ladders board such as the one we used in the 50s in an antique shop.
The Cotswolds are famous for their lovely rounded hills, but now I'm heading to one of the highest towns here, and one celebrated as one of the prettiest too. Dating all the way back to the times of the Normans, Stow-on-the-Wold has long been an important trading centre, and it's an ancient little town. Nowadays, it's no longer sheep and cattle which are sold here. Today, it's famous as a centre for antiques. And I'm here to meet a man who really knows his stuff when it comes to the old and the valuable, antiques expert Paul Martin.
Hello, Paul.
Oh, bless you.
Nice to see
And
you.
Oh, you been here before?
Well, yeah, I know it a bit, but not thoroughly.
It's a really good antiques call. There's a few cracking shops here.
Right.
And I think we should go exploring.
I think it's a very good idea.
I'll show you around.
OK, thank you very much. I might find a treasure.
Now, I love a good mosey round, but when it comes to antiques, I'm an ignoramus, so Paul is going to advise me in this Aladdin's cave full of curiosities.
Hello, Jane.
Hi, Pam, how are you?
Yes, I'm well, thank you.
Jane Finnegan's been running her shop for the last 4 years, and it's chock-a-block with all manner of treasures.
What have we got here?
It's a sweetie box for a child, and it's Humpty Dumpty.
A bit scary.
Yes,
Well-
I find them a bit scary, to be
Well,
honest.
don't you think children of today like scary things?
Well, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, they do, don't they? But he's interesting.
It's very rare.
It's very rare, Paul. Very, very rare, yes.
Early 1900s?
Yes, 1910.
Is it for sale? I bet it's not.
It could be. but
Everything's for sale at the right price.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's right.
He frightens the life out of me, but he's worth over £250 apparently. So I wonder if you can do antiques on a budget.
Jane, if people haven't got much money, is it still worth coming into your lovely shop? Is everything...
Absolutely.
There's something for everybody, there's got to be, isn't there?
Yeah, there is something for everybody. We've got items from about £30 up to £7,000 or £8,000. So do we need to hire a van then for you, Pam?
Yeah, I think so. Load up the furniture van.
Do you get many famous people in here? Apart from Pam, of course.
Apart from my good
Pam's a
self.
celebrity.
Yeah.
We've had Jeremy Irons in a little while ago. You've got David Cameron that lives locally, and the Beckhams, of course. They go around the town quite a lot.
I met Jeremy Irons once.
Oh, I'd like to meet Jeremy Irons.
Yeah, he was very, very attractive. He said to me, I hope I see you again. And I thought, say the word, Jeremy. I thought, say the word. Unfortunately, nothing happened.
Well, Paul and I are all fired up with enthusiasm now, so we're going to find another shop.
Bagot of Church Street. Now, they've been here a long time, a good established dealer.
Look at those nice dominoes. They're
That's
pretty.
lovely. I love the dominoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go inside.
Let's go and have a gander.
Jack Bagot is a legend in the Cotswolds antiques world and has been plying his trade here for almost 60 years.
Oh, Jack, this is such a lovely shop and it's full of all manner of beautiful things.
To be honest, I don't know what to look at first. There are wonderful old books, silverware, furniture and artwork, and scattered among them are little knickknacks that remind me of my childhood. While I'm just gazing at everything with a dropped jaw, Paul has zoned swiftly in.
This. I mean, I'm a big fan of brown furniture, and this is just... Oh, this is...
It's very
touch that.
strokeable, isn't it?
Caress it.
I
It's
know,
beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's lovely.
It's a serpentine side server, which would come from a lovely country house. It's lovely, isn't it? Dare I ask the price?
£55,000.
Gosh, is it really?
Yeah.
I've noticed you love games. There's lots of games everywhere, and the condition is superb.
I'm always fascinated by games, particularly if they're in good condition and complete.
And one of Jack's games is looking very familiar.
I must say, Jack, I never expected to see a snakes and ladders board such as the one we used in the 50s in an antique shop.
When you open up the board, you see the 1950s graphics, and the snakes come alive at you. It really has a wonderful look to it.
Jack, how much does this game cost now?
This game now is £65. If you had one that had been played with by a child and it had been damaged or the box was missing, it might be worth £1 or £2. Because this has lasted over 50 years as a toy, in this condition, it commands such a price.
I see.
And I think they're going to be very collectible in the future.
It feels like I've only just scratched the surface of the antiques world here in Stowe. But time flies, sadly, so I have to be on my way. My next destination is a place formed by raging torrents at the end of the Ice Age. Nestled on the southern edge of the Mendip Hills in Somerset is the town of Cheddar. And apart from its famous cheese, it has a very famous gorge. From the sheer drops of its dramatic cliffs to its spectacular underground caverns, this is one of Britain's great natural wonders.
Do you know, I've never been to Cheddar Gorge. I've heard about it, heard how fantastic it is. But I've never been here, and I have to say, so beautiful. I mean, look at this panorama, look.
This majestic scenery was all formed over 1 million years ago.
Hello, Paul.
Hello, Pam.
Paul Ballantyne has lived and worked here all of his life and is an expert on this mesmerising, gorgeous gorge.
I've never been here before, and I'm knocked out by it, to be honest. It's such a surprise that this dramatic landscape suddenly appears.
This is the Mendip Hills here, made up of limestone, and the water's come down here over many, many years and carved out this rather spectacular gorge that we have in front of us.
And tell me about the history of the place.
Yeah, well, Cheddar and Cheddar Gorge have been inhabited for tens of thousands of years, going back to the hunters and gatherers. Saxon kings like King Alfred used to hunt up here. Then moving on, the water that formed this gorge then powered the mills, so that turned into industry in Cheddar itself.
The gorge is also an SSSI, which means a site of special scientific interest. Lots of flowers grow here which cannot be found elsewhere, like the dainty cheddar pink.
Yeah, it's a really special plant, and it's able to grow on the cliff edges here. It takes very specific conditions for them to grow, and luckily we have lots of those conditions in Cheddar.
I know it's a very inhospitable spot where I've seen them. You wouldn't think anything could get nutrition and flourish, but they do.
Cheddar's natural wonders aren't just confined to the beautiful landscape up here. This place is also world famous for the extraordinary spaces which lie under the ground, because far beneath my feet are the legendary Goff's Caves.
Thanks, Paul, thanks.
Paul's showing me this amazing network of caves.
Oh, it's colder down here.
And to me, it's unbelievable, a real revelation.
This is absolutely spectacular, Paul. Look at the colours.
These magnificent caves started to be excavated by Richard Goff in 1890.
This is absolutely amazing, Paul.
Richard Goff named this one the Diamond Chamber. When he first broke in here in the early hours of the morning, little flickering of the candlelight, he actually thought he'd struck diamond as the calcite formation sparkled back at him. So it would have been a really spectacular.
He must have been dumbstruck, mustn't he?
Yes.
He must have been.
But the caves are more than mighty caverns. They're also the final resting place for a very old Cheddar resident.
Oh, Paul, I can see something rather disturbing, in fact, extremely disturbing. It's a skeleton and it looks rather sad and lonely.
Well, this is what we've known as the Cheddar Man skeleton. So it's a really important discovery. It's about 10,000 years old.
Good grief.
Don't panic. These bones are just a replica. The originals are in the Natural History Museum. But Cheddar Man holds the record for being Britain's oldest near-complete skeleton.
It was so well preserved under the calcite, they've been able to find lots of information from it.
So what's calcite?
So calcite flowstone is a mineral deposit we get in the cave.
Okay.
So it comes through from the limestone and layers on stalactites, stalagmites and flowstone on the floor. They've been able to use the teeth, and they've been able to find that he was really well fed. There's flint scrapings on his bones. He had a hole in his head. They've been able to find out what sort of skin pigment he had, his colour of his eyes, his hair. So there is a reproduction of him.
And you say he had good teeth?
He had good teeth, so he had a good diet. There's a good area here for hunting and for food and for water sources.
It must have been a fairly harrowing discovery to suddenly find a complete skeleton down in a dark cave. It's the stuff of nightmares in a way, isn't it?
They certainly wouldn't have been expecting to find it. They were just in here breaking up the flowstone to try and let the water go down to its natural watercourse, and then to obviously come across that would have been a daunting experience, I'm
yes,
sure.
Absolutely, nightmare.
From the bones of the poor, lonely Cheddar Man to the sensational views, Cheddar Gorge has really surprised me.
Oh, Paul, I can't tell you how impressed I am by all this, and also being able to see it on my own, you know, it's so atmospheric. And I don't want to sound crass, but it reminds me of being swallowed by a whale. You know, it's like flesh all around you and organs, and it's waiting for the digestive juices to come and dissolve you.
Around 500,000 visitors flock to explore the wonders of these caves and Cheddar's magnificent gorge every year.
Well, it's a really special place. I feel really privileged to help manage this land and be one of the custodians of it, to make sure it is safe and it's good for generations to come.
Coming up, I'm going to submerge myself in the wonderful city of Wells.
Oh, my goodness, look at this.
To make good on a promise I made to myself 50 years ago.
So I'm back here today and I'm going to do the job properly.
My travels today have taken me from great seats of learning to great caves.
Absolutely amazing.
But my final destination lies in one of England's smallest cities, Wells. It might not come as much of a surprise to know that this medieval city gets its name from 3 underground sources of water. And I'm going to dip a large toe into its fascinating history.
I first came to Wells in the 1970s sometime because there was a folk festival nearby, and we came here briefly, and I just looked at the cathedral and I thought it was astonishing. It was so beautiful, but there wasn't time to explore really. So I'm back here today and I'm going to do the job properly.
I'm meeting my guide for today along this amazing cobbled walkway. Vicar's Close dates back to 1348 and is believed to be the last fully surviving medieval road in England and supposedly the oldest residential street in the whole of Europe.
Hello, Matthew.
Hello, Pam.
It's very nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too.
Matthew Minter is a member of Wells Cathedral's choir, which has a special link to this spectacular street.
Vicar's Close was built for the Vicar's Choral of the cathedral by Bishop Ralph of Shrewsbury back in 1348.
Now, you are a member of Vicar's Choral.
Yes, that's right. I have the privilege of living here, yeah.
And what's it like? I mean, can you do anything to it? As it's so old, it must be listed to the nth degree. And is it primitive inside, as it's so old?
They're certainly not primitive inside, thankfully. They have all the mod cons. We have inside toilets and bathrooms. So, but yes, you're right. They are wonderful World Heritage listed, Grade 1 listed properties.
I can see the enticing shape of the cathedral behind us and hear the lovely clock. And I really love a proper tour. And I think you're the man to do it, please.
I'd be delighted to, Pam.
Wells was the first English cathedral to be built entirely in a Gothic style, and today that architecture remains absolutely astonishing.
Oh my goodness, look at this. Tell me how old this lovely cathedral is, Matthew.
So the building that we're in currently was started in 1175.
Crumbs.
And completed around about 1239.
Wells Cathedral is home to one of the largest collections of stained glass in the country. But perhaps the most impressive example of all can be found at the top of the nave.
And this is the world-famous Jesse window. How old is it exactly, Matthew?
We think it was put in at around 1340.
Wow. I love the gold and green and the sun flooding through it.
The Jesse window is one of the finest examples of medieval stained glass anywhere in Europe, dating back to the mid-14th century.
Who was Jesse? Pardon my being a duffer, but who was Jesse?
So Jesse was the father of King David, who's probably noted for his psalms in the Bible. And so the Bible tells us the line of Jesse stems to Jesus.
I see. OK, so he's an ancestor of Jesus, Dad. I didn't know that.
Head outside and just a few yards away from the cathedral is Bishop's Palace, home to the Bishops of Wells for over 800 years. And there are some other majestic residents here that I've actually come to see.
Hello, Moira.
Hello. Hi, and you?
Lovely swans. Oh, they are beautiful.
Looking back into the records of the palace, there's been records of the swans here since about 1850. So,
really?
So yeah, so I think it's either Bishop Harvey or Bishop Auckland's daughters first put a bell on the gatehouse. And then they taught the swans to ring the bell. So
they ring the bell, do they?
They absolutely ring a bell for food.
Would you like to hear my swan bell-ringing ode?
Oh, absolutely.
OK, I'll just get into poetic mode here. You have to imagine I'm a scandalised swan. It's a scandal. It's a crime. We ring the bell time after time. No wonder swans are getting thinner. We ring the bell and get no dinner. Tumultuous applause. Or none, as the case may be.
She's applauding under the water.
She is. She's tremendously impressed.
I'm going to see whether these swans really are feeling peckish.
Hello, girls. Hello, Mummy. Oh, Here, Mummy. Right, we want you to ring the bell, Mummy.
I'm told the swans usually ring the bell within seconds of the string appearing.
Oh, Mummy. Come on.
Clearly, I'm not a swan whisperer, so I'd better stick to the poetry.
Well, I don't think they're quite strong enough to ring the bell, so I think we'll give them some food anyway. I think that would be kind. I'll be the swan. See?
Well, the swans might not have rung the bell this time, but Wells has certainly hit the right note with me. Meeting these lovely serene birds has been a gorgeous end to my journey. Today has been quite enchanting.
I would not have owls flying down the middle of the room where you serve food.
It's got its hazards, hasn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Some places have been hidden treasures right on my doorstep.
To my shame, I've never been here before, although I live, you know, just down the road.
While others have been astounding in their sheer beauty.
Wow, look. This is absolutely spectacular.
But there's one place in particular which remains close to my heart and for which I have a very special affection. Now, Oxford is a fine historic city, best appreciated from a punt, with the famous dreaming spires on the horizon and a tasty picnic stowed at the front. To navigate the waters of the Cherwell, people need a confident technique, for it's difficult to look like an Adonis stranded up a pole shouting, "Eek!" In this ancient college and quadrangle, prime ministers were fashioned with aplomb and listened for the steps of Harry Potter or the curfew from the tower of Great Tom. The treasures of the Bodleian collected, Magdalen and the welcoming of May, the students of the passing generations at Oxford as they cycle on their way. Next time, I don the posh frock for a very special appointment with His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales in his world-famous Cotswold garden.
And it's a combination of order and chaos.
I can't see much chaos.
I go full steam ahead as a terrified train driver.
A little bit more. There we go. Right, so we're off. Go.
And I help release some prickly little friends back into the wild.
We could give ourselves a pat on the back.
Too cute. Pam's royal appointment next Friday at 8. We've memories of a glorious career that peaked at the height of fashion as mother. New tomorrow at 8:45, the absolutely fabulous June Whitfield. Next tonight, a taste of the good life with a dash of culture and drink in the views. From Paris to Rome with Bettany Hughes, new in just a moment.